Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Checked Out. We are continuing our reading challenge here. Jenny is out this week, but joining me this week to talk about mystery books are April.
Hi.
And Jennifer.
Hello.
So we're going to go ahead and just jump right in. I will say right off the bat, mystery is not really my genre. I don't have anything against it. It's just not typically what I read. I've read the more popular things. So we're going to kind of leave it up to April and Jennifer this week to kind of guide us through.
Oh, well, we are happy to. Jennifer and I are both avid mystery readers, to the point that we started our own murder mystery book club here at Northside. Feel free to join us at Whodunit on the last Tuesday of the month. And
that's his plug.
Yep, that's our plug, our shameless plug.
It was good. It was really natural.
We just start right in there.
In there, yeah. It's great.
Come to our wonderful, amazing book club.
Yeah.
But so first, just kind of to talk about what mysteries are. Mysteries typically are books that revolve around some sort of crime that occurs and then trying to solve the crime. Now, the vast majority of mysteries seem to have to do with murders, but they don't all have to. Some are robberies or kidnappings or other criminal acts.
Or you might have all those happen in one book.
You might. I prefer the ones where like 17 people end up dying before they finally are like, wait, something's happening.
Hold on a second.
Wait a minute. It was a dark and stormy night. Yeah. Someone's going to die.
Always.
Always.
If it ever has dark and stormy, run the other way.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd talk about some of my favorite murder mysteries. Probably my all-time favorite murder mystery, I'm going to go way back to long before any of us were born, to the magic of Agatha Christie, who kind of put mysteries on the map. She made them super mainstream, made them really accessible for people. They were paperbacks that you could just pick up at the train station, and people loved them. And my favorite one is And Then There Were None. It's a complete standalone novel. It's chilling. It has creepy nursery rhymes, and people just keep dying, and they keep dying, and you have no
on an
idea.
Isolated island.
Yes.
Right? So, like, they're the only people on the island. So, it's got to be one of them, right?
Well, unless someone's on the island. That's
right?
what's so crazy about it, is that it takes you all the way to the very end before you're like, oh, and I won't ruin it for you if you've not read it.
We're not saying anything else about it, but it is considered one of Agatha Christie's masterpiece stories. It really, and if you haven't read it, please do, because it's awesome.
Absolutely. So that's probably my favorite. You know, I've read it probably 7 times in my life. I mean, and I don't reread books very much, but that one is so good.
It's worth reading.
Even though I know how it ends, I still am like, wow.
You're still like, no, come on.
That's the best kind of writing. It's something that you can go back to over and over again and just keep finding new things.
It is. Well, and with mysteries, once you've solved it, you generally don't really want to reread.
Yeah, right.
You know, maybe once to see something that you missed, but hers are really great at there's always something new, trying to figure it out, because all the clues are there, but I never find them on the first go through.
I do think that with Agatha Christie, I think she really was thinking out how not to let you know who did it until she wanted you to know who did it.
Yes.
And she's very good at that, where I think sometimes you read other stuff and you're like, I know who did it. And I feel like those books, those are fine, but I think that she really knew how to really make the plot work and figure out all the characters and have them all work so seamlessly together that she told such a great story and a really good mystery. So she's fantastic at that.
She never cheated you. Like, it was always one of those things where all of the bits and pieces
worked.
Of the evidence were there if you were paying attention. You could have found them. You didn't, but you could have. Like, she didn't just all of a sudden be like, oh, and actually it was the neighbor that I've never introduced you to at all. And you're like, no.
Have you ever watched the episode of Bob's Burgers where Linda does the mystery theater in the restaurant?
No.
That reminded me of that.
Is that how it turns out at the end? Is like, and here's something you had no idea was happening.
Oh, I do remember that episode.
You were saying that. It just reminded me of that. She's obsessed with mystery dinner theaters, and at the end of her mystery dinner theater, she's like, surprise, it was me. And they're just like, that's not a mystery, that's just a lie. Yeah. You just lied to us once that you said that you didn't do it at the beginning. That's one of the things that really gets me about mysteries is just how complex the writing has to be.
Yes.
It's one of those things where maybe that's why I don't read them that often. It's because they make me feel dumb when I read them. So I'm just like, you have to be so smart to write a good mystery. You have to have everything planned out, and you have to plant all these different seeds and clues.
And enough red herrings so that it's not
Yeah.
super obvious, but nothing that's an actual. You're not allowed to lie to your reader.
Exactly.
No. One of the things that I think about is the British mysteries have. There's something about, especially the older ones, have this ability to really give you all the clues, but they're really good at like making you look the other way, you know.
Yes.
And I also think it's their writing style. I know the mystery writers of the 30s and the 40s used to do something what they call a round robin, where a lot of times they would take a story and they would pass it to another writer, and then they would try to build on. And I think
gosh.
yeah.
That would be horrifying.
Sounds like a game of telephone, like you used to play camp.
Yes,
Where everything
and
is
you gotta
really weird.
think it's not like they were like had access to like the internet or you know. So I mean, they were really able to really get their craft down. I think so. That's a really good thing.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned British writers. One of my favorite modern day writers is also British, just random. Just picked up a book one day and loved it. Her name is Ellie Griffiths, and she writes the Ruth Galloway mystery series, which are sort of cozy, but it's a mix of cozy with a bit of police procedural because the main character, Ruth, is a forensic archaeologist. So she works in a college, but she gets called out all the time to look at human remains because in England, everything is ancient. I mean, every time they dig up a building, there's some ancient Roman site underneath it, and they have to stop and look. But sometimes it turns out to be a more fresh kind of bones, and she ends up working with the local police to kind of solve it. And it's a great series. She's a fun, strange character who's always complaining about being overweight, and I just love her for complaining about it all the time and being like, I've gained like 2 stone, and I have no idea how much a stone is. But I can feel it. I feel you. She's like, I just need to lose 3 stone, and she complains about how her hair is being all limp, and she'll be wandering around with her best friend who's hot, and I mean she's real in a way.
It sounds like if Bridget Jones were a forensic scientist.
And it does sound like that.
And so it's funny, and she has these crazy real life problems where she accidentally sleeps with the policeman and accidentally has a baby, and it's just crazy. Also, she has cats. I mean, it's just a good time.
What could you not love
And then
about
there's
that?
a great, well thought out murder mystery going on, and most of them I'm really surprised. I don't catch all the clues, and I love that.
Do you know? Can you recall what the first book was?
The first one is The Crossing Places.
In case any of our listeners want to
Really good.
look it up.
Totally read them. Some of my favorite series. It's one of the few books that I will buy the hard copy of to own.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I need all of them in a perfect line.
High praise from someone who works in a library.
That's right. I do not buy a lot of books anymore because I can just get them here.
Exactly.
Yeah, why would you buy books?
So you threw out at the beginning of your description of this one, cozy. Can you talk a little bit about what the difference between a cozy and a police procedural and all the different kinds of mysteries
So there are several kinds of mysteries. Cozies tend to be, they don't usually have main characters that are police detectives. They don't include a whole lot of the hard, gritty kind of details that you get from murder scenes. It's not a lot
Amateur
about the
sleuths.
forensics. They tend to be, the cozy baker who just happens to constantly stumble across dead people. Another
you would think
series.
they would move away from that person.
Another series that I love that is super cozy is the Bibliophile series by Kate Carlisle. And the main character is this lady who restores old books, helps clean them up or rebinds them. And she's constantly stumbling over dead bodies. And she actually admits it. Like in books, she's like, why? Why am I always tripping over all these dead? Every time I go to a conference, dead body. Go to a shop, dead body. And I'm like, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
I feel
being
like
honest.
that never gets addressed, right? In the story,
yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, really? Are you that? Do you have that bad luck that you keep finding these bodies? But
So,
that's
yeah.
part of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of a cozy, and they kind of go across the gamut because you have sweet cozies that include recipes or that have magical cats or
Which I'm going to talk about.
That was one of my
yeah.
grandmother's favorite series, the Peaky Pie book. Is that what they're called? Or Sneaky Pie.
sneaky pies.
Yes. Sneaky Pie, I think, might be a My Little Pony. Yes. Sneaky Pie, the cat who solves mysteries.
Cat
Yes.
Who Solves Mysteries.
Yes, my grandmother loved those. I think that she owned every single one.
And I mean, I get it. I love cats. I love when there's a cat in the books that helps magically solve a mystery. There's
Cute.
a series that I read where the cat will knock a book off of the shelf and it will somehow pertain to the solution. Just it's crazy. But they're sweet. They're adorable. They're not dark, which is great when you want a nice light read and maybe not nightmares.
There are a lot of mysteries
lot of
out there
blood.
right now that can get really, really dark.
No, yes, and we've read a few of them in our book club, and then we've read some that were just
Lauren Bukes is one that I've read some of her stuff, and her stuff can get very, very terrifying.
Karen
Slaughter.
Yes.
The entire Nordic noir series is like the Stieg Larsson and the Camilla.
Those are really dark.
Laxon, I don't remember. I think it's Laxon. It's Laxon. But they're very dark. The settings are dark. It's very gritty. They're creepy.
Yes.
A lot of blood, usually, somewhere involved.
And cozies are on the other end of the
And they're
spectrum.
completely other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, they're like pancakes.
Yeah, you come away with a cake recipe at the end. It's
and
lovely.
at the end, here's some maple syrup.
Yeah. I always appreciate a good recipe at the end of those.
I do too.
It's nice. It's nice.
But then, so you also have like police procedurals where it's mostly a police officer, detectives that are solving the crimes. One of my favorites is Tana French.
Very good.
She writes a series called The Dublin Murder Squad, and each book kind of highlights one of the detectives from the squad and kind of their own personal drama that's happening in the context of this greater case. But you get all the bits and pieces that you would expect from like a Law and Order. Like you get. Here's the forensics, here's kind of the crime scene, here's how this information comes in, they set up a tip line and they get a bunch of stupid crap. So you get all the false leads. I mean, it feels like what you would think a police investigation would be like.
Yeah.
So,
and they're really well written too. I have to say, they're very well written.
Tana French is one of those authors that you always hear a lot about. I feel like any time a new Tana French book comes out, it's just like, everyone's really excited.
That's me, but
yeah.
It's actually
There's
my
a
favorite.
lot of people who love her.
Yeah. She's super popular.
Well, and she's different. She doesn't have like a main character in all of her series. They kind of tag team off each other. So she'll have a main detective and then like a minor detective character in the book that becomes the main detective character in the next book.
Oh, that's a very fun like romance.
Different minor character.
That's like a really common romance novel thing where in series they have the heroine and the hero and then like one of her best friends.
Yeah.
Right. In the next book, she's the main character.
Yeah.
It's very common in romance novels. It's really interesting.
That's how Tana French mostly writes her books.
Huh.
So
what a cool idea. I mean, to like take that idea and explore so much more with these characters.
Yeah.
I think with the Tana French books, I think a lot of we read one of her books in the book club, and one of the things I kind of got from listening to our people who come to our book club was like they want to know what happened. Like they want to know more.
Yeah.
Like, what happened to the first guy or whatever,
I never write authors because they're not going to reply. It's fine. But when I read the first Tana French book, I was so upset that I didn't get kind of like a conclusion to part of the storyline that I sent like 5 emails. I got nothing back. I'm still waiting.
Please,
it's like
email April back.
I just need a little bit of conclusion, just a smidge.
Please help her.
But it's so good.
We love you, Tana French.
If you're listening, please respond to April's emails.
Please.
So one of the things we were just talking about cozy on, we'll throw this out, is the Murder, She Wrote series.
I loved that TV show.
If you love the TV show, if you
never watched it.
Oh no!
I told you guys, mystery's just not one of those things
but
I seek out. I need to. I would love to. I like
Jessica.
Yes,
Angela Lansbury.
Yes. She's a delightful lady, and it's just one of those things that you always hear about it, and it's a classic. And I'm like, I've never.
Well, they're still writing them, and there's a new one coming out. But what I wanted to talk about was Donald Bain, who wrote 40 of the Murder, She Wrote, passed away last year, and so the publishing company had to decide what they were going to do. He was in bad health, and they now have a new writer named John Land who writes thrillers, who's taken over. And his first book, called Manuscript for Murder, is going to be the first one of his take of Jessica Fletcher. So I am super excited.
So it hasn't come out yet?
I believe it is out now.
Oh, okay.
I have not had a chance to read it.
So it's going to be more of a thrillerized version of the cozy Jessica Fletcher.
Yes, he's going to add some thrill to it. He's going to keep Jessica Fletcher as she is, but he's going to put her in some danger this time.
Yeah.
Because,
Interesting.
yeah, where she's not, she has her scrapes, but could be a little more dangerous for Jessica Fletcher in these.
She's someone that I always wanted is in the TV show because I grew up watching it with my dad.
Well, that is who it is. I mean, you got to know that when you read it, you see Angela Lansbury's face.
Well, but I mean, she was one of those characters that I needed her to be like, man, I keep finding an awful lot of dead bodies. And all of my nieces and nephews either are accused of being killers or, kidnapped or, every time.
Yeah.
And going...
Yeah, there is
in a town that has maybe 200 people in it.
Well, that's the reason
You
why...
think they'd run out of people.
That's why they never kept her always in Cabot Cove.
Well, I know. But still, those were the best episodes.
Watch out, New York.
So is Murder, She Wrote, is it considered a cozy? Since
Yes.
she's just like an ordinary lady.
She's a retired English teacher.
Yeah.
Because she's an amateur sleuth.
Okay.
She is not a detective. She doesn't work for the police department. But I will say this. I think it's awesome that these books are still out because I would be really sad when I heard Donald Bain die. I was like, oh no, please keep writing them. So I'm very glad. So I just want to throw that out. That I was very excited.
I hope it lives up.
Yeah, well, I do too. So supposedly he's going to introduce us to her as, give us more backstory of Jessica Fletcher when she first started out. Especially Manuscript for Murder, which I believe is going to be her very first crime that she ever solved.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yes. So I'm excited about that. As you can already tell. So another thing I wanted to talk about was one of my favorite series, which is the Flavia de Luce series by Alan Bradley. The first one was called Sweetness from the Bottom of the Pie, which she's an 11-year-old who is in England in 1950s when the series first starts, living in a rundown big mansion with two sisters who are awful to her. And she's got a scientific mind and has her own lab in her, I believe, at the top of her house. So, I mean, she's fun. It's one of those series where there's not a lot of violence. It's very cozy. I think for some people, and they might think, well, this is a kid's series. It's not at all. She's just 11 and she's super smart.
She's a very precocious child. I read that one.
I think it's a great series. I love it so much. And I'm glad that Alan Bradley is still writing them. And I think I'll never get tired of her. I mean, she's going to get older pretty soon.
Does she, I didn't read beyond the first one. Does she age as the series goes on?
When it starts, she's 11. I think right now she might be 13.
Oh.
But a lot has happened to her in a couple years.
That's a hard time, 13.
I know. I'm like, unlucky number 13 for poor Flavia de Luce. But anyway. But it's a great series. And if you're looking for something that is not gory at all, I mean, there's a lot of poisons in it. Because that's her deal. She really loves poison.
Like everyone died from poisons from like the early 1900s up to like the 60s, and then suddenly they're like, maybe not poison anymore.
Yeah, that's very true.
I feel like it was like arsenic over here and cyanide over here.
Well, maybe for like a cozy mystery, it's a nice, just like neat and bloodless way to have bodies in a cozy, where it's just like, oh, here's just. Yeah, a dead body. And don't worry about any sort of crime scene. It's just a body. Don't worry about it.
It's fine.
I think that might have something to do with it, maybe.
Yeah,
it's a little better for a squeamish person.
Over here.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
If you're squeamish, don't have to worry too much about it.
You just walk in. Oh, dead body. Is it poison? Let me see. Yes.
Yes, definitely.
I always love the amount of screaming that happens in books when they find dead bodies.
I know. It's so.
They're like, whoa. And TV shows, they always scream.
Right.
Yes.
But I don't think you really do. I think you're just like, oh, hey, oh, you're not alive anymore. I should call somebody.
Help. Especially, I guess, in the old books, you just yell out the window, hey, police.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, it reminds me of a podcast that I listened to, I think it was last year. It was just like a one-season kind of standalone podcast that was set like an old radio show.
Oh,
it's called Deadly Manners.
Oh, yes, that was great.
And it had Kristen Bell and
RuPaul.
Yeah.
A lot of celebrities.
It's just a random, but it's a funny I mean, it's
Was
hilarious.
it fictionalized? It was like a story that someone had written and they were just
Yes.
acting it out?
Yes.
I don't know. I just
Yes,
knew it
it's-
as a podcast.
It is started off as, well, I want to say they did a play version of this, but
okay.
I'm not completely sure of that. We'll have to check on that. But it was like if you like the board game Clue, or you ever watched the movie Clue.
Which is the best movie.
Which is-
I was going to say, if we were going to transition into multimedia stuff, Clue is one of my
Yes.
all-time favorite movies.
It is my favorite movie. I love it
love that
so
movie.
much.
If you've never watched Clue,
You have
Oh,
to
God.
you
watch
have
it.
to watch Clue, and you have to get the version that has the true ending on it.
Yeah.
But I like all the endings.
All the endings are very funny, but so I have the DVD version, and you can, like, whenever it was initially released in movie theaters, they sent random endings to different
Yes,
theaters, and they
that's
didn't
true.
have the true ending on it. So you can watch it with all the different endings on my DVD version.
Yep.
And then there's the true ending, which is like they run through all of the different ones. And it's really, really clever. It's such a good, just like,
I still laugh every
Yes,
time I watch it.
And it's hilarious.
it's extremely funny, and you think a movie based on a board game, like you think of like Battleship that came out a few years ago. And it's like, oh, don't worry about that. Clue was so good. It's got Michael McKean in it. It's got Christopher Lloyd,
Warren,
yeah,
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry. Oh my gosh, it's
Eileen Brennan.
so funny.
Madeline Kahn.
Madeline Kahn is
Ugh,
amazing in it.
I love her.
I'm not sure if there's anybody in the United States who hasn't seen Clue at this point.
No, I mean,
I feel like it's pretty iconic.
I come
but-
across people because it was a total flop in theaters.
It was, yeah.
No one liked it. They thought it was terrible,
Which I don't understand that.
and they were wrong.
Yes, it's
Very
one of those
wrong.
movies I think that really found a new life. Like whenever it came to people's homes,
Yes.
it's definitely I think would be considered a cult classic. It's just a
I definitely
delight.
think that's true.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fantastic, lovely, fun. Everything about it is awesome movie.
Well, and
I can still quote lines from
Oh, I
it.
know.
Same. I
My
can-
husband and I often are just like, "Why did the car stop?" It's frightened. It's frightened. That's my favorite line.
my favorite is Madeline Kahn going
Flames.
flames, fiery flames coming out of my head, just flames.
The side of my face. So good. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me that both of you love that because I feel like if you like mysteries, then Clue is kind of like your touchstone. Like, it's
Yes.
the movie.
Well, and on my DVD version, you can choose to have it select an ending it randomly,
Yes.
so you have no idea which way it's going to end.
Yeah,
I'm like,
mine does
oh,
too.
which one is it?
It's so fun.
See, it's still fun.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's just like, even though it is technically a mystery and it's so rewatchable and like you can kind of like look for things that you know that happen. Yeah, it's really, really fun.
Yes. And you can look for Jane Whelan, who's the girl.
Oh yeah, the
door.
singing telegram girl.
Yeah, from the Go-Go's.
It's true. I always forget that she
Singing
came in as that.
telegram, boom. And
Yeah.
you just hear the bang, and it's like, wow.
Well, I always loved the cook
Yes.
because she was in MASH. Like she was in the TV
Oh,
series
really?
MASH forever and ever. And so like the first time I watched the movie, I was like, I know who that is. I could not tell you her name to save my life right now, but I was like, she was in MASH. She played a nurse on MASH.
That's
Oh,
really
that's
funny.
right. I totally forgot about that.
Clue's delightful. It's really, really good. So, do we have any other favorite mystery movies? What are some really good ones?
I really enjoy Gosford Park. It's kind of set in like a.
that movie
It's
is
set in an English manor, and it's a little bit upstairs, downstairs, because you kind of have like the aristocracy, but you also have the help kind of running around, and it's a bit bananas. So, I mean, it's
It
not.
is a fantastic movie.
Is Dumbledore in that? Is Michael Gambon in that movie?
Yes, he is.
Okay. I was
He's the
thinking
one that
was.
gets. I won't say.
He doesn't make it.
Something not nice might happen to Michael
Something
Gambon in
terrible
that movie.
happens to Michael Gambon. in
I was
that
thinking
movie.
he was in that.
It's a great movie. To look at it, it's visually
Yes.
stunning and beautiful.
Well, and it to me it's kind of like you take a Downton Abbey
Yeah.
and you take. Not really Clue, but just like a classic murder mystery, you kind of throw them together. Like if Downton Abbey had a murder,
Well, it kind of did.
more of a murder.
Yeah. Not
Like
murdery
a-
enough.
A more,
I mean, like-
a more mysterious murder.
like an intentional we have killed someone
Not
on
Not
purpose
he
here.
does. He does.
awkwardly in bed,
In bed.
and then we have to carry his body out. Then it's
I
different.
should mention at this point I've also never watched Downton Abbey, so this is all just right over my head. I don't have any idea what's going on.
You're
So
like, and I have no idea.
And what is
I missed
happening?
out on all the Downton Abbey hype. I don't. I'm sure it was great.
It was. But I think April and I would have liked it better if someone really got murdered on that show.
Well,
All right.
Well, Well,
Not die in the war.
I feel like maybe in the first episode we were talking thrillers, we brought up Riverdale.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
So I hadn't watched Riverdale at that point.
Have you watched it now?
But then during that podcast,
Oh, boy.
I was
I love
told
that show.
that season 1 was basically, like a murder mystery.
it is.
It
yeah.
is.
And that season 2 was like a serial killer. And I was like, sold.
Yeah.
And I binged them. And I'm like, yes.
The first season is delightful.
I love the
It's
first
really,
season.
really good.
And
We
they-
may as well just turn this into a Riverdale podcast. I swear, we come back to Riverdale in every episode at this point. It's still good.
It
Who would
is really
think that
good.
Riverdale would just encompass every single thing we need?
It really does. It has every genre that you could ever want, all in one show. It's great.
It's got romance.
It's perfect for everyone. It's got the nostalgia kick without being super old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's really fun. The first season, particularly, I think
the
hits
season-
all the right notes.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's fun.
Oh yeah. I love that. When it first came on, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
For
about
those of
this.
you who haven't watched the first season of Riverdale, it starts with the murder of Cheryl Blossom's twin brother.
Yes.
And so then, the first season is kind of just this standalone story of trying to figure out who killed Jason Blossom.
Yes.
And it's
And it's a
And
wild
then when-
ride.
it is. It sure
It
is.
is a very wild ride, and when you find out, you're like,
What?
what?
Yeah. If you read the Archie comics and you see Miss Grundy in the TV show, you might be a little confused because Miss Grundy's a little different. just a little.
Just a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
I'm
like,
glad
what
that
do
you
you
finally
say?
watched it. It's
I
fun.
did. I
Yeah.
did. I loved it because I needed that. Oh, murder sold.
Yeah. And I know that we've talked about true crime stuff before. We talked about Michelle
McNamara.
I can never say her last name correctly. But there was one new podcast that I listened to, which I think would kind of fit in the mystery genre that I really enjoyed. It was Roots of Evil. Have you listened to that?
No.
Don't know that one.
So it is a podcast. It is a companion piece to a series that came out on A&E, I believe.
Oh.
And it is the true story of George Hodel.
Tell us more.
This is making me excited. I'm getting
Tell us
blank
more.
looks. I have something to contribute. So yeah, Roots of Evil. It is narrated by Raja and Yvette Hodel, and they are the granddaughters of great granddaughters of George Hodel, who everyone in their family is convinced is the murderer of the Black Dahlia.
Oh.
I
Yeah.
did hear about this
Yes,
podcast, but I have not listened to it.
I believe that Chris Pine is in the TV series, and the TV series is like a fictionalized account of their. So I was listening to it and I was tweeting about it, and I was just like, I really love this podcast, and I need a family tree and like a chart for the Hodel family because it is confusing. There's a lot of them. So the two women who narrate the podcast, their mother, Fauna, was the daughter of Tamar, who is the daughter of George Hodel.
Okay.
So those are the generations, kind of. Those are the main players. The podcast is them just telling the story, and they've got all of this great audio footage of their mother. She loved to record herself, like, doing interviews and talking because she was adopted. So she reconnected with her mother, Tamar, later in life.
Oh.
And it's kind of the story of Tamar growing up and how she and her brothers were so convinced that their father was the murderer.
Was he a doctor?
He was a doctor,
Okay,
yes.
that's what I remember. I know the name, 'cause that particular murder is like so.
Oh, it's very famous, yeah.
I mean, it's so famous, but it's so. I mean, for that time period, for what happened to her,
Oh, yeah.
is outrageous, and like that didn't. I mean, I'm sure there were other crimes like that, but
It was extremely gruesome.
Yes.
very gruesome.
Yeah, it was very, very gruesome, very high profile for the time when I don't think that
Yeah.
murders were necessarily that high profile. And like gruesome
Yeah.
murders like that didn't happen every day,
It's
obviously.
Like, yeah.
And so yeah, they present really compelling evidence. Their brother or their uncle is writing a book about it. He's a detective.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ah.
And so he's writing a book about it. He's got all of this evidence. He thinks that his father may have committed more crimes.
Well, it seems hard to believe that
You would just kill
you
one
would just
person.
kill this
Yeah.
and not kill anyone else.
Right, and apparently there was a murder in the Philippines, the Jigsaw Killer or something
Oh,
to
I've
that
heard
effect.
that.
And George Hodel actually moved to the Philippines and started a new family at a certain point.
So you're like,
So, all right then.
Some really compelling evidence that he might be a different serial killer as well. He's long dead at this point. And all of them are. Their mother, Fauna, has passed away. Tamara has passed away. So it's them, and then all of their mother's siblings are kind of participating in this podcast and discussing.
Did they talk about the house, the that really kind of glamorous house that they lived in?
They do. I'm struggling to remember the exact. They mentioned the name of the house. It's a very famous one, and George Hodel had named it, and that's why he lived in this weird hippie commune of surrealist painters and stuff. And it's but he was a doctor, and he was in charge of the public health in Los Angeles at the time. Yeah,
great.
Yeah, it's fascinating. They don't really delve too much into the. It's more about their family.
It's not really about her.
No, they don't really go much into Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia at all. But it's absolutely compelling.
I want to listen to it.
Really, really, really good. I will say the last episode is a lot. It's a lot. The last episode is the two narrators, and then all of their aunt and uncles in a room just talking stuff out.
Oh boy,
whew, it's a lot. Their family has been through. George Hodel did a number on everyone, even the ones who didn't meet George Hodel. So
wow.
It's absolutely compelling. Would really, really recommend it for anybody who is interested in true crime, murder mysteries, that sort of thing. It was a really compelling listen.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did recall when it came. I mean, I did because it's recent. It's only been so many episodes, right?
Yes, I believe the last episode just came out a little bit ago. There's 8 episodes total, and I believe it's done now.
Okay.
So, 8 episode limited run. And like I said, it was a companion piece to the fictionalized account of it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really good.
I mean, I feel like there's been a few podcasts recently that have been kind of offspring or a couple generations removed of serial killers. Because I listened to one about the Happy Face Killer, which is crazy.
I listened to that.
I haven't heard about this at all.
It's his daughter. He murdered 8 women.
Yes.
One even in the house that she stayed in with him because she can remember seeing red dots on the ceiling thinking, how did spaghetti sauce get up there? And I mean, it is the weirdest, creepiest, and she's all messed up.
Yikes.
But
because she's a journalist. She worked in television or something. Her father was a truck driver. And so he would...
Oh, I do remember this. I didn't know it was called Happy Face, I don't think. I remember the truck driver thing.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was a podcast.
And he would write letters.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of how he got his name. But yeah.
It's a good time if you want to listen to a mysterious podcast.
Yeah.
There's so many ones.
There's a lot of options.
Well, and I just finished the newest season of Monster. The first season was the Atlanta child killings, but the second season was about Zodiac, which is another one of those super popular stories that we all know about, but we have no idea who it is or what really happened, and it's such a crazy story.
Yeah. And it's the one thing I really got from the Zodiac, that podcast, is the amount of people who are obsessed with the Zodiac.
Yeah.
And
it's a lot.
And it's a lot of people. I want to tell you what, I was like, wow. Their whole life is Zodiac. Mm-hmm. Trying to figure out the ciphers, and it's... Wow, it's amazing.
I know, yeah. I will say, I was on a forum, looking at stuff about Roots of Evil after I listened to it, because that's what you do whenever you listen to it.
You want more.
You
dive in.
Dive into Reddit, and you're
obsessed.
tell me, what does everyone else think about this? And somebody was talking about Steve Hodel, who is the son who believes that his father was the Black Dahlia murderer, and he also thinks that he may have done the Zodiac killings as well. And they were like, "Hold on, man! He didn't do all of them.
He can't do everything.
He can't kill everybody.
He cannot possibly have been every serial killer. Slow down."
It's H.H. Holmes was one of the first serial killers that we know in America, but there's all these theories that he went to England and was Jack the Ripper. I'm like, but I mean, was he?
Yeah, I think that people kind of get carried away.
Maybe just one in one place.
Yeah, that's just... Well, there's a big theory, though, on the Zodiac, right? That they think it's the guy that was a Unabomber or something.
Oh.
There's discussion about something like that. Ted, I can't think of his last name.
Kaczynski.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So, who knows?
He was bananas.
You can find a lot of theories.
There's a lot.
If you know where to look on the internet. Reddit. It's Reddit.
Yes. Just go to Reddit and just type in
you don't know about
a name.
Maybe check it
there
out.
It is.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot out there. Great.
Yeah.
Do we have any other mystery favorites that we want to throw out?
one that I just read is actually a collection of short stories by Helen Thurston.
Yes.
It's called An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good.
That's a really great title.
The most, I've never been a fan of short stories. I always feel like there's not enough. These are wonderful. It's basically the opposite of Miss Marple, Agatha Christie's sweet old lady who solves these murders. And An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good. She is a cranky, hateful lady
awful.
she hates everybody and everything, and when someone gets on her nerves enough, they're doing something that's going to impact her life, she kills them.
Oh,
And it's
all right.
amazing.
All right, then.
It sounds crazy. They're adorable, cute stories, and you're just kind of like, no, I get you. I feel ya.
Yeah.
At one point, she's in a grocery store, and this teenage kid that is stocking shelves says something snarky to her, and so she takes a safety pin and jabs him with it, and he yelps. And then she plays this poor pitiful old lady to the store owner, and he yells at the kid, and she's like
Got him.
and I love it. It's so funny. And it's this little it's a little teeny tiny
It's a
book.
very small book.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's really good.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, and I also would recommend if you do like short stories and you do like mysteries, P.D. James
Yes.
does some really great mystery short stories.
Oh yeah. Sleep No More was
Sleep No More.
I loved that collection too.
It was, and then she has
Mistletoe Murders.
Mistletoe Murders, which was her Christmas one, which both of them are very good.
It's a great way to just if you're not sure about mysteries, but you're kind of curious, those are great ways to kind of touch in without committing to a whole book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because they're short, they're well done,
and P.D. James was a good.
they're a
writer.
little bit funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can enjoy a cranky old lady jabbing people with
I
pins.
know. I mean,
You gotta love her.
I'm not gonna lie, she's kind of my new spirit animal.
I think she definitely was something else. I will say that.
So good. Well, and the front of the book is this little cross stitch pattern. It's
Oh,
super
cute.
cute.
Yeah.
You'd have no idea she's this cranky, crotchety old lady.
You definitely should read it.
That's fun. Yeah, I'm trying to read more and more broadly, and it's a work in progress.
Absolutely.
Especially since I've got a little guy at my house now. And
They are
he's-
time consuming.
Yeah, he's something. Don't really read nearly as much as I used to at this point, but that's okay. I'll get back to it eventually.
You will.
Eventually, I'll get
But
back
you
to
have
reading.
a fun things to do when you get home.
It's true, yeah, and then I want to sleep.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there's that, right?
Exactly.
That wonderful thing I don't know about anymore. Right?
Yeah. So before we go, tell us one more time, when can we go to your mystery book club?
So Whodunit, a murder mystery book club, meets on the last Tuesday of the month at 6 o'clock here at Northside. This month, we are meeting, I believe it's April 30th is the last Tuesday of the month. And we are reading Home Sweet Homicide, which is a little bit cozy. It's an older book that was written
In the 40s.
in the 40s, but was recently reprinted, and it's funny because this premise is there is a lady who is a mystery writer, and it's her 3 kids that have accidentally discovered a murder, and they're trying to help the police solve it, whether the police want their help or not.
Oh.
Yes, it's
and they're throwing
a
in
lot
their
of
own
fun.
red herrings.
Oh, fun.
Along the way.
And it's based completely on the books that their mom has written. Like, well, in this book, blah 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 blah. So we should do this.
That's
Yes.
cute.
It is really cute.
And it's really it's been a fun read, and I'm really glad that I kind of stumbled upon it.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So
And we will be back here at Checked Out again next month for our next month of the Reading Challenge.
That's right.
What do we have next month?
Next month is Westerns.
All right. So that's, I think, outside of
Yippee.
everyone's
Yeah.
comfort zone.
Yippee-ki-yay.
I don't know that any
you,
of us read
you
Westerns.
probably will not
but
hear me on this one.
we will make sure that we read the appropriate Westerns and we are able to talk about what we have read.
Yes.
That's my goal. I want to read a Western.
You know what probably will happen is you guys will discuss a lot of TV shows.
That's possible. I do love The Quick and the Dead, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't know anyone.
Sorry, Blazing Saddles is
Blazing
one of my
Saddles is
personal
hilarious.
favorites.
Oh
That's
my
pretty
gosh,
Western.
I forgot about that movie. That movie is great.
Please don't let this turn you off from our Westerns podcast. I
You're
promise we'll read.
lonesome
I
dog,
promise we'll
right?
read a Western.
We'll have more things to talk about, we swear.
Something modern, like not those.
Thank you so much for joining me, April and Jennifer. This was great.
Thank you.
Thanks.